Menstrual pain is often dismissed as a normal part of life, and about 15 to 20% of them suffer from severe pain that significantly impacts your and their daily lives. On today's episode, you are in for a treat because we dive deep into the menstrual pain causes, prevention, and tips to help your body thrive. When you learn more about your body, the more powerful you become. Welcome to Her Daily Rhythm, the podcast dedicated to empowering you, women, to live in harmony with your mind, body, and spirit. I'm Natalie Smythe, your host, and like always, I'm so thrilled to guide you on this journey. So let me do the honors and introduce to you Sivaranjani Ganapathy, our expert guest on episode 2. Sivi is a registered alternative practitioner and an aerospace engineer turned holistic health practitioner. She addresses women and college students on various forums from PCOD to PCOS and women's fertility issues. She's conducted various workshops and guest lectures addressing more than 6,000 college students and guided more than 6,000 women from 2019. She's been practicing as a nutritionist and women's health coach to address fertility, menstruation, birthing, postpartum, infant care, thyroid issues, and holistic methods. She has completed more than 27 certifications in women's health and nutrition through aromatherapy, herbalism, fertility awareness, hypnobirthing, infant massage, chakra analyst, and somatic womb massage, to name a few. And her approach towards health is not just about lifestyle and dietary changes, but also includes trauma-informed energy works that helps a person enjoy the changes for a lifetime. Let's get this episode on the show. Welcome, Sivi. That is no easy undertaking, and I can imagine that all of our journey into holistic health and women's health starts with a seed and probably starts with a journey for yourself. So I'd love for you to expand upon your journey into this field.
Thank you, Natalie, for having me and to talk about something that I'm really passionate about. So thank you so much for the invite. Yeah, so like I said, everything has its own seed. And I had two incidents in my life, which was a huge life-changing event. So a little bit about my parents. So if you want to take a history about my mom, I would give the history just the history alone for 45 minutes. So she has so much of complications and she was a cancer survivor. I no longer have them both, but my mom was a cancer survivor, stage 4, and then we had to face a lot of aftermath of the side effects of the radiations and chemo. So back in 2012, we did not have really very advanced methods for radiation, and it was a really harsh method for her to undergo. And that led to a lot of complications in her. So right from 2013 until she passed away in 2023, his last year, so the 10 years was accumulated only with treating the side effects, and it was a huge life lesson that I had to undergo. And on the other side, my father, he used to, not kidding, 32 pills a day. So to just manage his body. And he was really very calm about it. And every first week of the month, we used to pack them up into little packets, morning, noon, and night. So that was a task. At that point of time, I felt like, okay, everything has a medicine. I was a modern medicine girl. So I grew up with modern medicine and like everything, there's a solution in modern medicine. And no idea on how to set a lifestyle or diet. I had no information on it. And in 2016, after I got married and we were trying for a baby, I found out that I had PCOS and the treatments did not work on me. So follicular studies, I had an IUI and then I had a miscarriage. Nothing paved way. And it was a very traumatic path down because I also lost my father in 2018 owing to a heart attack. It was sudden, all of a sudden. And everything was extremely complicated at that point of time. So, and that was the point when I realized that everything has to boil down to a point. And that point was lifestyle and diet for me. And coming from a non nutritional background and non-health background, started investing myself into learning what should I do in terms of lifestyle, nutrition. And again, I started reworking on my body and the diet, the lifestyle and everything. And I did a couple of certifications to understand the process as well. And through those knowledge and everything, I have 2 children now, and both of them are natural conception as well. And now I've taken that as a task to help people understand. And even I'm still learning in the process. And I am also trying to share the knowledge that I'm accumulating in terms of how one can connect with your body, because all the issues that is happening in your body, you get a sign prior. Problem is that we don't listen to that sound. We don't listen to that voice inside of us. So when we start listening to that voice, and that is when you will understand what it is truly trying to tell. And you will be able to reverse major issues happening in your body even before it starts. But it all starts with very minute things. It can be even simple as a pimple popping in your face, or it can be a constipation that occurs once or twice. It can become chronic. So, what are you doing to your body? Why are you getting constipated? Very simple stuff. Pimples and acne burst out can indicate inflammation in your body. And what can you do? And most interesting part is that I started bringing in a lot of alternative methods. I bring in a little bit of Chinese medicine. I take facial reading from Chinese medicine. I bring that into my practice. I bring in nutrition, and I also try to bring in a little bit of psychosomatics as well, because I personally have come to a conclusion that everything starts with an emotional blockage in your body. When those emotional blockages flare up in your body in terms of signs, and when you start reading the signs, you will be able to work on it by removing these emotional blockages, and the process becomes much easier. And that's how I'm still learning. I'm still trying to connect the dots as much as possible to make it much easier for myself and others as well. And with the grace of God, I'm able to connect with different people, different walks of life. I can carry. Not a proud accomplishment, I would say, but it is also something that I do know. I mean, I don't want to steal credits from the clients that I've made. It's their work too. But I have been able to contribute a little bit in terms of natural conception and also regulating periods for many. And at the same time, helping them understand the connection with their body and especially the emotional aspects of it.
So, I guess probably something that stands out that I want to ask is you mentioned that the emotional body is connected to, there's an emotional connection that starts with a physical manifestation. If it's related to, for example, in your case, PCOS,
Mm.
regarding the reproductive system, if somebody had endometriosis or somebody had PCOS or somebody just had dysmenorrhea, is there a different emotional aspect to each one of those?
I have found that the base is same, but then there are different levels to it. So PCOS, if you see hormonal wise, you have so much of androgen in you. So
Mm,
that is one of the criterias for PCOS. So basically, I see that pattern in people who are very independent for themselves. And if they have a difficult childhood, then there is a high chance they become extremely independent and they don't have trust on others as well. So there is a little bit of a lack in terms of trust. So this is emotional aspect of it. And it can also be contributed through stress. Stress, once again, can increase your level of androgens circulating in the body, and that can also contribute to PCOS as well.
could we just break down for our listeners what high androgens is? Because I don't think maybe a lot of people know about.
High androgens, in even more simpler terms, is testosterone. So we have testosterone in our body, but then we don't require so much like how a male requires testosterone in the body. So there are primarily three hormones: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and we have that in the different levels for in our cycle itself. A male, they run primarily on testosterone; they require a little bit of estrogen. Whereas for a female, we need estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone only during the ovulatory times. But if you have too much testosterone circulating in your body, that can contribute to PCOS as well. Things that you do in your life or things that have led you to do things in your life can increase this androgen levels in the body, and that can contribute to PCOS. So that's one thing. And the pattern wise that I'm able to see is that people who have PCOS, they're hyper independent, or they have difficulty in trusting others or even themselves sometimes. So this makes them or pushes them to a state where they're like, they should be ready for anything at any moment. So it keeps
Mm,
them in that edge. And that requires a lot of testosterone to be in that moment. And that can sometimes contribute to PCOS too. So if I am with a client who is dealing with PCOS, I tell them you need to reduce that edge moment in your life. So you need to do things to calm yourself down or learn tools that can help you calm yourself. So that is one thing that I've seen there. And if you look at endometriosis or even painful periods or heavy bleeding, these three are also connected. One common thing that I see in all the period issues is that it's not just limited to uterus, it's also something that you need to focus more on the liver. So, how is your liver functioning? So, if there is a stagnation in your liver, meaning it is not able to process its work well. So, in terms of hormonal metabolism, or it can be sugar metabolism or a fat metabolism, is experiencing stagnation, then that can also reflect in your periods. So, period health is not just limited to your uterus, it's just a sign that your uterus is trying to tell. So, you can read how your body is actually working through your periods. But the main thing that you need to address when it comes to a period issue is not just uterus, it is also the liver and your gut system. And liver can be manipulated through a strong emotion of anger and frustration. And these two are something that women can experience more frequently, anger and frustration. And people who also have a lot of communication issues, they tend to have manifest thyroid as well. It's not mandatory that they will experience it, but there is a higher chance for them to experience that. So again, thyroid can also lead to estrogen dominant state, meaning estrogen is too high in their body. And that can again manifest as endometriosis or heavy bleeding or even a painful bleeding. So again, if someone is experiencing a wound trauma, it can be because of anything that happened to them as a child. It can be a physical or a sexual abuse that they've gone through, and they haven't processed that emotion properly. And their body has difficulty in pushing out that emotion out. Women who've experienced childhood issues, like where they felt that they haven't been loved enough, or there is a lot of shame and guilt around the way that they grew, they tend to have more of these issues as an adult as well. So it's just something that I'm still working on. So I'm just
Mm.
collecting data, more data on it, because it's too early to say me that, okay, this is why this is happening. Because something that I'm evolving in terms of practice too. And I'm trying to collect more data to correlate it and try to find out if this is really a pattern. And there is a higher chance that women can experience a painless bleeding as well. Yeah.
So, two questions there is that notice what I see as well is when you first ask a woman, have you had womb trauma or are you angry? The first answer was always no. There's a lot of held and trapped emotions that we don't even realize or aware of until we have a catalyst or some type of breakdown or something changes in our lives. So I wonder, before we all have to have a breakdown, because I've had one, I'm sure you've had one. I think as people in this field, how do we prevent our young women and people out there who are experiencing pain to track where their emotions are coming from or create a relationship with anger too?
Yes.
Because society, it's quite taboo even to be angry as women, isn't it?
That's true. Unfortunately, as being a woman, we need to deal a lot of things. And one thing that we need to work on is emotions, because you might find a lot of funny memes mentioning that women are so hormonal and they have a lot of mood swings and everything. And yes, we are hormonal because we have a fluctuation in hormones, unlike men. And it is difficult for us to interpret even ourselves sometimes because we don't understand our cycle, right? So we don't understand what we are supposed to do at which stage of our cycle. It is important for women to understand when to do what,
Mm.
right? So at which phase, what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, because that helps in managing your emotions as well. For example, a woman who is menstruating, right? So she wouldn't want anything to be done in terms of social. Like she doesn't want to meet people. She wants to probably phrase it like her hibernating state. She wants to stay alone. She doesn't want to interact with people. But when she is forced to do that during her menstrual phase, unfortunately, with the work and everything that we have, when we are forced to meet people, when we are forced to socialize, that builds anger in them. Whereas they are really very sociable during their ovulatory phase, right? And they'll be happy to do that. They'll be really very happy to communicate with people, even until the early luteal phase as well. They'll be really very happy to socialize with people, and they are budding with a lot of ideas, a lot of positivity during their estrogen growing phase, which is right after the follicular phase, right after the menstrual days. And they can do all these things in these three phases. Whereas in the menstrual phase, they wouldn't want any kind of interaction. But when they're forced to do that, obviously it leads to more anger, frustration, and etc. So once we start understanding when to do what, and if at all you have the opportunity to work on your work schedule based on that, then it will be really very helpful for your body as well, because it's much easier to handle things. And that's one way that we can do. And like you mentioned, we even don't know for ourselves that if it's really trauma that is responding in our body. And most of us, we've normalized a lot of things, including period pain. We've normalized so many things. So when we normalize a lot of things for us, we don't know if this is real or this is unreal, right? So a lot of women still don't understand that a period is not meant to be painful. It is meant to be painless. It is a part of something that is happening in your body. But it is not fair for you to experience pain or discomfort during a period, right? That is completely fine because that's how you work in terms of your rhythm. But if you understand, if you really have any kind of trauma that is impacting in your body, I use chakras as practice during my consultations because that gives me better idea on what exactly that person is undergoing now. So I do an exercise during the consultation. So I give them a list of colors and ask them to choose what immediately strikes them. 99% I've found that it matches with whatever emotions that is. We can try the exercise for ourselves now, right? So
Yeah.
I'll just get out the colors. Just close your eyes, take in a deep breath, and just identify three colors that immediately strikes you. Okay, so the colors are pink, white, blue, green, yellow, orange, red.
Pink, white.
For you, there is a higher chance that find your brain nonstop chattering, and that can be more of overthinking. You might have issues with your eyes, probably some dry eyes, or issues happening with your neck. You probably take too much of responsibility that your body is not built for. You take more responsibilities, and there could be issues with communication as well. So either you overshare or you don't share at all. You try to just swallow your emotions. You don't express them really very well, or you're probably trying to express it, but you're not able to do that, right? So these are the things that immediately strikes me. So do you think you match anything with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Since I have my own awareness and it takes a long time to get here, I realize, and that's things that I'm working on, especially with communication and holding on. And it's really interesting that you mentioned about women and the liver and the resentment and boundaries. I think we all go on a journey, don't we? And I think it's up the scale. And then there's a new thing to focus on and there's a new awareness to uncover. But going back to what you originally mentioned, it's that constant self inquiry of whatever we see on the outside. It's an invitation to investigate and how wonderful to live a life like that. So it sounds that's what the key theme is to educate people on is that your body is so unique, so incredible. It should not be in pain. And if it is, that's an invitation to inquire. And even your thoughts, your emotions are all invitations that you ignore based on your emotions, whatever you're striving for, your culture, your trauma, because we all have trauma. And I think maybe that's something I'd like to point out is a lot of people, maybe I've noticed, are in denial of trauma or there's shame around trauma. And equally, if they do investigate into a past life trauma that they're very well aware of, there's a fear that it will break them, not actually be the greatest, courageous unfolding of their lives to hear everything that they've been wanting. But I wonder, how do you give people hope that it's only small steps and it won't be painful, but it's our responsibility, probably at this time in this generation, to do it for our parents and so forth?
Yeah. So shadow
But
work
it's a
is
lot
the
there to
most
talk about.
difficult.
Yeah.
Shadow work is the most difficult work ever, right? So for you to uncover deep enough to see the negative side of yourself, because we have a perception about ourselves, and when we try to project it outside, we always try to showcase that I'm good, I'm perfect, right? But we all have the negative side in ourselves that keeps pulling us down. And most difficult work is the shadow work. And like you mentioned, how do we understand if we really have a trauma stuck inside our body is through identifying things that trigger us first, right? So if you're having an issue with anything, like if something is triggering you more, why do you feel that that is triggering you? So I just had a call with one of the client, and she said that she has issues whenever she thinks of visiting temple, she starts developing panic attacks and she starts having a fear of visiting temples. And it's not just any temple, it's just temples that have a women deity. And she finds herself really very difficult to step into those kind of temples. And her work was to identify why exactly, because it all goes back to some incident that has happened with you as a child. So it is difficult. It's the most difficult part to in terms of working. But if you can the first step would be to identify the triggers that you see. And with so much lying in social media, it's easy for you to identify those because some reel can make you feel happy. But if you go check the comments in it, there will be a couple of people who are triggered by that reel as well. But you will find it funny, right? So why does that person find it funny? And why do you find it as a trigger? So identify that. What is triggering you in that, right? So in this aspect, it is best that if you can list things that is triggering you, that is number one, and identify to what incident led you to that trigger as well, right? So that is one thing that you can identify. When you work on that, obviously you will be able to. It is a tough process. It's not a very easy one. It is going to be a difficult journey, but you will see a different side. And by identifying all these things, this will be step number one. And step number two is acceptance, right? So most of us have trauma because someone else in our family induced it on us, right? So it can be our parents, or it can be a relative, or it can even be a friend, right? So you can't go back to them and tell that, hey, you were wrong. Probably you can tell them, but you can't make them change to a different person. That's not possible, right? But that sense of acceptance is really needed for you to move on. Unless and until you don't have that acceptance, you still keeping blaming them, right? And funnily, all these accumulated trauma that is happening in your body, it tries to let out in some way or the other. For a woman, it also treats uterus as one part through which it can push out trauma too. And that can result in a lot of clotty periods as well, right? So Chinese medicine recognizes this. So when you are hyper stressed, or when you have something, a traumatic incident that has happened, or you're not able to identify the traumatic incident, but your body is trying to show that out, all of a sudden you develop clotty periods as well, without any reason, right? So that is one thing that Chinese medicine recognizes. And when you try to draw back to a particular incident, work on it in terms of emotions, because that particular incident has triggered something in terms of anger, guilt, or shame, or you're not able to digest that fact, all these things implicate in your body as some kind of an issue, right? For people who are not able to let go, they chronically have constipation. That is one sign that I'm able to see. For people who have experienced a lot of guilt and shame, and they feel that they're not loved enough, they definitely have some kind of a womb trauma because that is stored in your sacral plexus. And that is where your reproductive organ is that. It's not just for women. I also see that pattern in men as well. So in men, it indicates in different ways. It can also be like an erectile dysfunction or their fear to procreate as well. That's also something that I'm able to see in men. But like I said, I'm still very in the beginning stage of this, but
Yeah,
I'm just trying to collect enough data to
yeah.
understand.
And what does that process look like for collecting the data?
That the way that I work, I take their period patterns and I also keep a track on how they're working in terms of emotions. Chakras actually help me
They
the
help.
best to understand. Even what they are not able to feel, I will be able to tap it out from their body because the colors they don't lie. So for like I think I have to finish that one, right? So the colors, the other colors, what they tend to indicate. So for those who have chosen green, right? So they have a lot of stress, a lot of worry sometimes, anger, grief, all these things are associated with the color green. And for those who've chosen yellow, yellow is something that indicates that you're not able to accept things in their life or they blame themselves for something. And there is a lot of guilt around it, or they're not able to digest the factors, or they don't have acceptance of things going on in their body, right? And that actually manifests as gut issues in their body too. It's so weird to have that connection. And then we have this sacral plexus, which gives you information that they have been having issues in terms of love, probably not receiving enough love, or they have a lot of guilt or shame associated with that as well. For those who've chosen red, or sometimes even black, it's an indication that they have a lot of fear. They're not grounded enough, they don't have the connection with earth, right? So they don't find themselves to be themselves at all. They're either in a different state or they're constantly in a state of fear. So and these people who choose red, there is a higher chance for them to see issues having it in their lower pelvis as well until their feet. Either they manifest as pain, or they tend to have constipation, or they have some pelvic issues, all these things. So this is the pattern
And
that I'm able to see.
and would that manifest in back pain? Because this is an epidemic that we're seeing with people with
Yes.
back pain,
Yes.
especially like go-getters, high achievers, people in the blue collar workforce and so forth. And then
Yes.
can you explain just a little bit about the chakras? Because I'm not sure if maybe half of our audience would understand or
So
connect with it.
chakra
I
is
know.
a very sorry. The chakra is a very deep topic. You can probably go read about it in case if you want. There are primarily 7 chakras that I take into consideration. There are even more. Some say it's 12, but then I take 7 into consideration and I've associated each chakra with each color, right? You have the root, which is at the base. Then you have your sacral plexus. Then you have your solar plexus. Then you have your heart. Then your throat. Then your third eye, and then the crown, right? So for me, each one of them represent issues in the body, what the body is trying to say. So that's something that I've worked out. And when they pick the particular color associated with the chakra, it means that there is some kind of a blockage at that location. So that can be correlated with the emotions. Say, for example, if someone chooses green, right? So that's heart chakra for me. And that can be associated with frustration, grief, worry, or even anger. And issues that can manifest because of that will be something to deal with your liver, gallbladder, and your lungs, right? I start welling more information from the client based on these organs that can actually reveal even more. So when you look at a holistic perspective, it is not just about nutrition and diet. It's also about how that person well-being is in terms of emotion. And I find chakras to be a good tool for me to understand what it is trying to say. Unfortunately, you don't have a lot of scientific proof for it. So, because it's something not really very recognized by the modern medicine, this is considered to be pseudoscience as well by some. But I find them to be really very helpful. And for people who have such kind of knowledge, I find them to understand themselves a little better. And when they start working on them, they find a lot of profound changes in their emotion and also in their well being as well in terms of whole health. And I think that's the most important thing for us, right? You need the end result there. Whatever is going to give you the end result, you can do that. And these processes are something that is not going to harm you. Probably you'll have some emotional surges, but it's a process of the shadow work too. So when you do a lot of shadow work, you tend to have a lot of emotional surges as well. Consider this to be a part of it. You will be able to understand yourself a little better. I have personally evolved so much only through these working through chakras and to understanding the deep, darker side of myself. Some few things that I've even thought that wasn't in me, they actually flared up. And when I started working on it, it was a long process, but I would say that I was able to tame it a little bit. And I understand my body much better, what it is trying to say, right? So if I'm not going to listen to it, it is going to force me to listen at some point of time. And I've had those experiences big time as well. So either I fall sick, I get a fever, so that I need to slow down and I need to rest myself. So if you don't listen to your body pushes yourself to a state where it will make you listen. And that first point, it can be a fever or an infection, and then you have some kind of pain that will manifest in your body. And that is a high sign from your body telling that you need to pay attention to this. Once you don't know it, and if you keep repeating the patterns, it is going to manifest as a big issue.
If you ignore the symptom by taking a painkiller or something like this, it will come back but drives deeper into the system, doesn't it?
Temporary solutions are not something that will help us. You can opt for them, but also it will be vigilant if you can watch out to what your body is trying to say, and work on those aspects as well, so that you will have a deeper healing through that process, not just band-aid stuff.
Mm,
But then you will be able to delve more deeper to understand what it is trying to say, and so that you can ensure that this issue doesn't repeat back in your life.
mm. I think that's the important thing because we all live in the modern world and we have more responsibilities than ever. And
Yes.
then sometimes you can't afford to be sick, and we get that. But the problem is in our society is that we've band-aid every symptom, symptology, and then we've created this culture of band-aid approach, which drives it down further and further. We ignore our emotions. And it's the integrative approach, really, isn't it? Modern medicine is so incredible for acute disorders, but the chronic disorders that we're seeing is our
Yes,
responsibility to participate. And I think it's
that's
so
true.
beautiful to include the chakras as well, because I've noticed that it's you don't realize what's happening on the subtle energetic, do you? And there can be a lot of critique that, it's not scientific, but just because we don't have the tools to measure the invisible doesn't mean it's not true. And there is a lot of science and data coming as well with what you're doing in practice. So we can really start to, with everybody utilizing this and testifying that, wow, I am getting better and my whole life is changing. That is enough anecdotal evidence, isn't it?
Yes. I mean,
And
all these practices thrive on anecdotal evidences, and I think we need to pay attention more to this and take those evidences as a base and start doing researches on this rather than just eliminating it as still something that cannot be proved. Probably you just work on it more to understand what it is actually trying to say well deeper, and I think we will have more answers. And like you mentioned rightly, that we need modern medicine too. It has helped us in multiple ways. I am all in for integrative approach. So you bring in all the aspects of medicine, and together you will be able to achieve a better healing. Because at the end of the day, if that is the goal, then there is no harm in involving things that will help you in understanding and reaching that point, right? So we have blood tests now, we have scan machines and everything that is from modern science, and that helps us to understand what is actually going to our body. But at the same time, you should also be inclusive of the other things as well, because they also try to give information on their body, just that we need more research on that. People to have the proof in front of their eyes, but there are positive reviews and feedbacks based on these practices that helps me more in terms of digging more in all these aspects.
And I just want to take us back to when you were speaking about the periods as well, that they are our fifth vital sign that hasn't been recognized. And the
Yes.
importance of every day in the month or when you have your menstruation, noticing how each month it completely changes. I'm noticing from a lot of feedback from people is they'll panic. One month they'll get clots, or one month the cycle will be a little bit shorter. Or what I am noticing that is tends to be a theme is that women's menstruations are changing a lot. Somebody that was always 28 days now is it's erratic. Would you have any comments on that? I know you mentioned the trauma, but maybe that's the invitation of what they should start investigating. And if I have a change, what do I
Yeah.
do?
Okay, so it all starts really very small. Okay, so for example, if your body is shifting more to an estrogen dominant state, okay, meaning you have too much of the bad kind of estrogen in your body, and that is going to manifest as in terms of painful periods or a heavy bleeding, or deep down, it can also tend to manifest as endometriosis or adenomyosis or fibroids or polyps, whatever it is, right? So the root cause for all these issues would be estrogen dominance. So you need to start working on it. And the signs that your body will start showing is it can be really very small, like breast tenderness, and it can be excessive mood swings, migraines before your periods, and spotting during ovulation or prior spotting before your periods. They are really very tiny to notice, right? But then they are the signs from your body saying that you are moving towards estrogen dominant state, right? And sometimes you get clots in your periods all of a sudden. So in that case, if you are a person who don't usually get clots, but you've got clots in that particular cycle, there's two things that I would want you to see. One, just identify how your past month was in terms of stress. Were you heavily stressed? And that can lead to this one, right? So it can be just a once occurring thing. But if you're getting the clots accompanied with the cramps next time, then it means your body is progressing in terms of estrogen dominance. So you need to start working in your body to ensure that you're flushing out the excessive estrogen out from your body. So work on the toxin exposure, work on your liver health, because your liver is where your estrogen is getting metabolized. So you need to start working on your liver. And the third thing is that are you constipated? Work on the constipation because constipation can also lead to the accumulation of the waste that the body is trying to push out, but it can also lead to more of estrogen dominant state as well in few. Or that is a sign that your body is giving in terms of estrogen dominance. So these are really very small signs, but you will be able to understand much better when you start picking them up. And for some, it can be a tender breast, but for a few, it can be breast pain,
Mm,
right? That is a difference. And the problem with this is that this can also come genetically as well, right?
mm,
If your mom or your paternal side, your aunt basically, right? They are going to have an estrogen dominant gene. And if it has passed over to you, there is a higher chance for you to experience that. So I come from a heavy androgen dominant age. All my aunts, they are extremely high on androgens. Like you can feel that androgen when you look at them, right?
mhm,
They look very masculine, and that is what it manifests in your body as well. So you are more prone to get a PCOS. So what do I need to do? I should start watching my sugar intake. I should start watching my energy levels, try to bring them down, try to slow them down. Problem is that being genetically androgenic, what it makes me is that I cannot slow down. It is very difficult for me to slow down. So it's a very heavy task for me to manage that, but you will be able to do that. So when you have genetics, you also have epigenetics, right? So it's not that if you have been passed down something genetically, it doesn't mean that you cannot reverse it. You can still work with your body so that you can bring it down as well. So I was able to do it. I've seen many people do the same as well. Just because it's genetic, it doesn't mean that you have to suffer the effects of it. Take epigenetics in hand, work on your body, your lifestyle, your environment. That will give you a huge shift,
Your environment can completely change your biology. And the
right?
exposure, yeah, I think that's a huge one right now. And again, it's our responsibility to question all of the products that we're using instead of
Yes.
being marketed to. So our consumer responsibility is most important because they unfortunately marketing doesn't have our ultimate health impact.
True, that's true.
And then just a couple of things on what women can do to cleanse their liver and help with liver stagnation, because I think that's a really big one that
Yes.
there's not
Yes.
much information about.
So liver can detox on its own, right? So on our body detoxes on its own. And for you to achieve that properly, you need to have proper sleep.
Mm.
So by having enough sleep, you will be able to let your body do its work. It's not mandatory that you need to take some detox teas or routines to detoxify your body. Detox is something that your body can do. But through diet and through foods that can support the liver, you will be able to achieve this a little bit better, right? Because a lot of bitter foods, and then you have lemon, ginger, turmeric that can also support the liver health, reduce the inflammation, can help this process fasten, right? One of the best things that you can try to do is castor oil packs for your liver. People don't do castor oil packs for the liver. So when you do for your liver and your uterus, you will be able to see a lot of changes happening in your body in a much better way. So doing some castor oil packs. So you just apply some castor oil onto your liver, which is right side of your body below your right breast. You apply some nice lavish amount of castor oil, put a muslin cloth on top and put a hot water bag on top. Let it stay for 20 to 40 minutes. And then you might see that the oil has all seeped inside. You just do a clockwise massage to it. So ensure that you have enough amount of fibers and at the same time good quality probiotics as well, because your gut health is also important when it comes to hormones too. So you need to make sure that you're taking good amount of probiotics, and when you do everything together you will be able to see a lot of changes. One very simple trick that I have found is basically using black raisins to bring down your period pain. Black raisins, and I have clients who have said bye bye to their period pains, which they had like 16, 19 years as well. So just it's a tremendous thing that you can see in terms of change. So the concept basically is that the raisins, which is made out of grapes, has resveratrol, and black grapes have more amount of resveratrol, and that helps in reducing the inflammation and fighting against the prostaglandins in the body. And that helps you to achieve less pain, right? So it is very simple as soaking 5 to 6 black raisins every night. And next day when you get up, you eat those raisins in empty stomach. This one has B6 as well, which is again required for your body in terms of hormone, and also helps with your period health. By taking this for a couple of months, just 2 months to 3 months tops, I have seen people reduce their period pain drastically, right? So you can also add seed cycling to it. So flax seeds have lignans in them, so which will help in taking out the excessive estrogen also from your body and ensure that there is good amount of the good quality estrogen that is required by your body too. And by doing seed cycling and by introducing raisins, just these two, and along with castor oil pack, I'm sure you will be able to reserve your period. I mean, like reverse your period pain. Yeah.
Wow, they're incredible tips and easy hacks and not expensive as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just with the castor oil pack, would you do that weekly or once a week or daily?
I would say if you have an intense pain, I would say do it like every alternative days for a month or so, and then
Mhm.
reduce the levels to like twice a week or thrice, probably twice a week and once a week or so. You can reduce the intensity of it, right? And that will become like a maintenance thing. But if you want to do it every alternative days at least, that will help you in getting your body sorted in a much better way. Yeah.
So I guess what do you, I mean, I could ask you a million more questions, but I guess time is of the essence and you've shared some incredible takeaways. And I think the best thing is for people is to take small changes to implement daily and that creates a bigger impact. So how are you seeing your practice evolving or the scope of women's health and how would you like women's health to evolve?
First thing would be is that not being taken for granted. And we need more information on how you can make things much easier for women in her life, right? So there have been a lot of changes happening, like You have period leave in the offices happening now, like menstrual holidays happening for a couple of them. And those are good changes that you need to see. But I think we should also understand that we are not meant to, like, we're not able to, I would say that we don't have the energy of what masculine basically has. And we have a cycle that entirely differs from what their cycle actually happens. So ours is like a wave, we go up and down, whereas if you see for a male, it's just a straight line, right? So that is a huge difference. Yes, you need that. You need that for your self confidence and everything. You need to thrive in this world. You need that money to work and everything. That's definitely there. But at the same time, I would also emphasize in understanding how your cycles function so that if there is a possibility for you to work in your productivity levels and everything and syncing along with your cycles, I think that will make a huge shift in you. You will still be able to accomplish all the things that you want to do that you're currently doing, but with so much ease in your life, is what I would say. Right. So that is a huge thing that I actually found as a change in me. Once I started tuning down a little bit, working and scheduling things in my life according to my cycles, I see it that is an increase in productivity. So you have a phase where you can deep think. You have a phase where you can work really very well. You have a phase where you can socialize. So when I plan my work according to this, I am able to see a lot of shift and also the productivity levels to go up. Like if I'm able to rate myself from on a scale, if it was 4, I can rate myself now at 8 because my body itself is able to do that naturally, right? Instead of forcing my body to do that, which will drain me in the later stages, which I don't want, right? So I think it's essential for each woman to understand their cycle and work along with it. Now, since you mentioned about the practice, right? So earlier for me, it used to be just diet and lifestyle. If I was like, okay, this is the nutrition you need, this is the lifestyle changes you need. And these are things that you need to stay away, like in terms of toxins and everything, right? So this was just how I started my practice. But I started learning more about the holistic evaluation of a body, the diet, lifestyle, majorly is about emotions. So, what are you trying to accomplish with your body in terms of emotions? What is stagnant in your body? And what are the things that you need to work in terms of releasing these emotions? So, when I've evolved my practice in such a way, I see the change happening faster and also it is long lasting too because they have the answers with them. So, this is why I'm able to, I'm experiencing this. So I need to start working on this emotion, or I need to start to let go of all these things that is stagnant in my life, right? Inner child healing is a huge shift that helped me understand how a body can actually function, right? You have a number of tools now. So you have through body work, you have in terms of vagus stimulations, yoga can help, and all these things. And women should also understand that in each phase of their menstrual cycle, there are different exercises that they need to do as well. Cardio exercises and HIIT work best during ovulatory times, but it is not recommended during menstrual times or the later part of the luteal phase because it will drain them a lot, right? Whereas you can do a lot of restorative yoga during the luteal phase and just resting yourself during menstrual phase and do some basic, very minimal cardio. And you can do some strength training workouts during the follicular phase through the ovulation phase that will also make a huge shift in your health as well. Since you have to do HIIT, it doesn't mean that you need to do it all 365 days. Work around HIIT, strength training, and restorative yoga. Because when you combine and mix a whole together, you will be able to see the shift definitely happening in your body. And that is something that all women should know, is what I feel. The information that I've shared, it can be triggering for some, but I would want you to sit down and think on this and analyze why you're getting triggered by this. So I think it's vital for us to understand that.
And I think we're becoming a new woman. We're redefining that for ourselves in the modern world. And it's based on all of the layers. And if this information is new for you, or you've never really heard of this information before, know that just taking a small step and that it's all about the self inquiry, right? All of the tools that you suggested, and they're so incredible. But I think that is the key to us flourishing. And it goes back to we have all the wisdom inside of us. And if you can just operate in the world with a little bit of inquiry and trust, then you're on the journey to such a better life for all of us. And then our relationships will unfold and everything. And then we can change and impact the system rather than the system impact and influence us.
That's
So,
true. It
yeah,
is
wow.
like you mentioned, it's just very small step, but those small steps will make a huge shift in you. And when you recognize the shift that has happened in your body, you will all obviously be more aligned to do it even more so that you can hold that change in your body, right? And that will make you dwell more deeper into all the holistic aspects, and you will see a shift around you. And right from the products you start using in your body or at your home, you will see a shift in everything happening there. You'll be more nature aligned. And I think we are believed, I mean, like we should be more nature aligned, and that is something that we are missing in this modern world. And we don't consider nature as a part of our life, right? So that is a huge thing. That is a huge mistake that we are actually doing. So the more you're going to align with nature, the better you're going to see the changes happening in your body. Just 10, 15 minutes of grounding can give a huge change. Exposing yourself to sunlight, moonlight also, right? So all these things will give a huge shift in the body.
We can only gain things. You can't lose things. And the things that you
Yes,
lose
that's
were
true.
not meant for you anyway. So, wow, thank you so much for all of your wisdom, Shivi. Where can everybody find you? Are you open up for consultations? I know you have a lot of recorded workshops and things. So, how can
Yeah.
people
So
connect?
yeah, I have a website. It's Wellness with Sivi, and I'm in Instagram under the same name, Wellness with Sivi. So I do have a couple of recorded versions on how people can understand their body, work on thyroid holistically, work on period pain holistically, or work on PCOD, fertility, because I specialize in menstruation and fertility. So what they can do with their fertility aspects. And there is even sessions on body work, which is tools for restoring periods and fertility. And I also have one on fertility awareness as well, so which is chart your cycles. So, and I also take one-on-one consultation, and all the information you can find it in the website. And I keep sharing a lot of things in my Instagram handle from time to time as well.
Amazing. Well, it's such incredible wisdom and needed so much. We need lots of Shivis to help share this information. So, I would love if you ever created a school, I would be your students.
I'm
Yeah.
grateful that you mentioned.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank
much. Thanks, Shivi. I really appreciate your time.